Let me get over here to Just Chatting. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Stone Ridge Confab. Pleasure to have you guys on the stream today. We've got a couple of different people involved through our conversation today, so it's going to be quite a bit of fun. First off, obviously, you know Adam, who's not here, as you can see in the background.
I'm intentionally not on camera right now because
is
that is a masterclass in Photoshop. I use Snagit. We're going into the Dataverse today. Dataverse. It's now Dataverse. Get ready for it. Tables, attributes, whole new world. We're in the Dataverse. We're there.
I love it. I love it. Obviously, Adam's excited about Dataverse, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Marcus as well has joined, going through kind of what we're going to be talking about with the engineering change management capabilities. And really, to go through that content in more detail, we have our official first guest speaker.
An expert.
Anne, how are you? Welcome. You're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, yes.
That's what you This
is the best intro.
technology.
Exactly.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today.
And I was just about to say, it's about time we got some real experts on this dang thing. But, no.
Yeah, tell me about it.
That was awesome.
And you want to do a little bit of an introduction?
Sure. My name is Ann Casey, rhymes with crazy. Been implementing ERP on 6 continents, 39 countries for more years than I care to think about. The only continent I've never traveled to is Antarctica, so anytime the penguins need a MRP or ERP specialist, the job is mine. And been with Stone Ridge for a while, focused in on D365 supply chain management.
Awesome, man. Well, we really appreciate you being able to come on to the stream today to go through some of the topics, obviously, that you've been covering and you've been presenting on internally. I think you've done a couple webinars on this as well for the engineering change management capabilities, or what do they call it? Project Oak Tree? Was it Oak Tree?
It was called Project Oak Tree, and now it's called, which isn't as sexy, right? Engineering change management just doesn't have that that Project Oak Tree does.
Yeah.
It's like the secret has been revealed. Project Oak Tree is engineering change management.
Yeah, and it's been something that we've needed for a while. I mean, we've had abilities to do it through third parties, obviously, but you know, it's nice that they finally have this now in the base solution. Oh, I'm excited for that presentation today. I guess a little bit of housekeeping to kind of start us off. You know, first and foremost, Adam told me about something that I hadn't even heard. I know, I was in shock. But Adam, what is this Dataverse concept that you speak of?
It is, team, it is going to revolutionize how we implement and design Microsoft Dynamics business systems. It is a whole, it's CDS.
I was going to say, I'm looking for the build up. I'm like, what's going on? What direction are we going here? So
ever the showman, yeah.
Yeah, so no longer CDS, now Dataverse.
Until a lawsuit happens and they bring it back to CDS. We'll see. But I like it more than DataFlex. Also, like I just riffed on. Wait, no, other way. I just riffed on.
So really, how does Dataverse and DataFlex? How could you like one more than the other?
because I'm a comic book nerd, Marcus. That's why.
There we go. Okay.
I'm wearing an all-print Star Wars denim jacket right now. Of course, I'm gonna like something called a Dataverse.
Multiverse, Dataverse.
Yeah, you know, it's the new name. They're trying to find that stake in the ground, that name. But along with it, you know, there's also a big hubbub in the community, in the channel right now. Gone are entities, and gone are fields, and we're still gonna call them that for a decade. But yeah.
And I'll have to be honest. I'm glad that entity is gone. It's a table. Let's just call it a table.
It's fine. I've been using them, like I said before, interchangeably for years and years and years. don't care myself. We all know that an entity comes with so much more than just a SQL table. We're not pulling one over on anybody. I honestly am so ambivalent. I watch it all from afar and go, have fun.
I
Um,
yeah yeah. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start calling them things. Just it's a
things or
thing.
objects. Like if you're working with coders,
Right?
you
Yeah.
say objects
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
Like it's
exactly. That's what we used to call it in the nav world, right? It's an object basically, and they're like, well, an object can be a table, it can be a code unit, it can be all these different things. So, well, it's kind of cool though. I mean, so they sadly they announced the data flex. They got into really a copyright issue with it, from what I recall, right, where somebody already had that name, and now we have a name that hopefully is a little bit less confusing, right? Dataverse will be basically the common data service. Have you heard like common data model? Like did they say CDM still applies to the Dataverse? To any of those
are
concepts?
they
Like
are they
yeah,
changing it to like the
yeah,
Dataverse template?
Dataverse
I don't.
templates or
Yeah, no, I truthfully haven't dug too deep on this. It really has been like while doom scrolling on Twitter, I'm just seeing the channel blow up about this stuff. So it's
I love that. I'm gonna use that doom
But
scrolling.
some
Uh,
separation with CDM and CDS, that seems like a good thing to me. Those seem
yeah,
so close in terminology. People got them very confused.
I
So
agree.
no,
this
I
might help
agree.
with that.
I agree. I agree. So TBD, I'm sure on a few fronts here and there, but I guess we'll see.
Should be fun. I know, Anne, you've been talking with the DOM management inside of D365 as well, right? Recently, so
yes,
doing
very
that.
exciting.
Yeah, distributed order management. So that's another feature that we're going to have to highlight at some point, and hopefully you'll be an expert on that by the end of it too, right?
I'm really looking forward to digging into that because we have so many of our customers are now multi-warehouse.
Yep.
And with the world that's changed and the whole drive to better, faster, cheaper, the whole way that Amazon is changing the way that our customers are having to distribute, um, that the ability to take a customer order and then have the system do some magic rule processing behind the scenes and go, well, let's ship it out of this retail store because they have excess inventory, or let's ship it out of this warehouse because that's geographically closer to the customer. That is very, very powerful stuff for our D365 customers that are trying to optimize their shipping channels, their transportation costs. And it's been a growing requirement. And 2020 has been an interesting year, and we're seeing how businesses are having to adapt and change and be a whole lot more nimble. And we're starting to dig into functionality that's been hiding in the corners of D365, and now we can optimize it. So,
Yeah, and they even did like I think Patagonia, right? I mean, for
yeah.
Inspire, right? They did a whole use case with it, and we were on the line with another Dynamics implementer, a partner that we use, and they were talking through, how they were able to take those retail stores, right, and basically make them like a warehouse and deliver product from the warehouses, which are the stores, not because they had to close the stores for a period of time,
Yeah,
right? So that
very
was a
real life issue right now.
yeah. I mean,
Right. And
super real.
it means that companies can actually decentralize a whole lot of their warehousing functionality because the system's going to be running algorithms in the background to help optimize the decentralization. How are all those IZE words, right?
Yeah.
But it certainly allows businesses to be a whole lot more nimble and get away from, if I have everything in one big pile, that's the best way, right? And have the system drive and support some of those business demassification thinking. So
Yep.
very exciting stuff.
And you know what's cool about this, guys? So Marcus and Adam and I are in pre-sales. Anne's in delivery, and she could be in pre-sales. I tell you, Anne, you're doing a great job. I mean, it's exciting not just from a pre-sales perspective. I guess is what we've always tried to make this channel about is
Right.
the content of it, right? So, looks like Christine, common data model for Datazer is coming soon. For Dataverse is coming soon. Well, we're gonna have to check that one out. That's cool. This is the cool thing about chat is that we learn something too as we're going through this. And what we also learned is that we now have a new follower, the Water Boy number 9. And I
What,
think
Bobby Boucher himself
Bobby Boucher.
literally started following us.
That is awesome.
Shout out to Bobby, to Waterboy9. Water doesn't suck.
Yeah. If it's a Ridger, we want to know who
That's
took
a deep
that.
cut Waterboy
Exactly.
reference.
You need to know. You need to know Sandler, right, for that. High quality H2O. All
I was just
right.
thinking if things didn't
Water
work
sucks.
out very well this week with Ann, we could get Adam Sandler on next time.
We could probably afford him.
You're gonna upgrade your whole game.
Come on, let's get more viewers, guys. Let's get to 100 viewers, and we'll get Adam Sandler on here, right? I did not say that, right? Oh, we got another follower then too. So what is it? Elon Elongated Muskrats is our new follower. Okay, that's awesome as well. So thanks for the follows, guys. We appreciate it. We like to have fun here, obviously. So that's kind of what it is. And so Sabrina says, I'm an Ann fan as well. So Ann, you got fans. You're drawing a crowd.
Hashtag Ann fan. You already have, Gaga's got her monsters and the Beehive. We got Ann fans.
That's all.
Fans. I've been on for 12 minutes and I've got one fan. Woohoo!
Oh, we get all delivery in here, right? Come on, guys. Come on over.
And that's more than we've cultivated organically. And no, I'm joking.
That's the difference between pre-sales and real life, right?
We imagine, right? We imagine.
For what it's worth, by the way, before pressing forward, disclaimer, I had to make this comment on a call yesterday. This is not an adult beverage. This is an awesome nitro cold brew coffee. I just happened to put it in a low ball, so if you see me,
they call that Guinness, just so we're
yeah, that's
nitro, right, for it. Yeah, Marcus's. There's no confusion with Marcus's. It's pretty much clear. So,
yeah, or as we would refer to it in the household as water, which
yeah,
is a little different than water.
Water, real water. Looks like Britt has something too, and Girl Power, Lady of Confab. Britt made a recommendation a while ago, and Britt, I'm glad you brought that up, that we need more women on Confab, and I cannot agree more. So This was an awesome opportunity. Hopefully we'll get the same opportunity in the future, and with you and with others on our team, because I think it's a really important topic, right? We need to be very inclusive with what we're doing here, and that's our culture. That's the way we've always approached it at Stone Ridge. So, like I said, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on here, Ann. So we're excited about it. With that, let's kind of jump into content now, right? Because it's fun at the beginning here. We're trying to get away from the world. Let's focus on something that's a little bit fun here, right? Which is the engineering change capabilities, right, Ann? And I think you've got a PowerPoint we can pull up and kind of go through to ask questions. And in chat, ask as many questions as you can through this. We're going to obviously ask them too as we have the conversation, but we'd really like to answer them because this is a new feature that launched with, was it Wave 2 that they were looking at launching this with, Ann, by chance?
Yep, October, Wave 2.
Okay. So this is actually inside now of the solution. Is that a correct statement as well?
This is a correct statement.
Okay.
Can I ask an architecture question? At some point, over the past year, we've talked about some of these components that we think potentially could be available just because of the way they've been designed in Business Central. Is this one of those applications, or is this really a supply chain only type architecture that we're looking at?
Yeah, I can take that right away. So that
Okay.
is a really good question, and you probably know it too. But the right now, what they did is they actually went through and they purchased a competitor, right? And who was? Do you remember who it was that they purchased?
It'll come to me.
Hopefully in chat somebody can post it as well. But basically they went through an acquisition. They've done this before, like with Blue Horseshoe when they added the wax and tracks capabilities. They basically went through and then purchased the rights to it and then added the software or the code into the base solution. They did the same thing with the engineering change management capabilities. So it was a separate ISV partner that they purchased the rights for the code, and now they have incorporated it into the solution. So it is very specific right now to supply chain management. And I want Ann to get into this in a sec here too, but kind of the last thing though, Marcus, we've started having more conversations with companies that require more advanced supply chain requirements. the vision really is app services, right? Where you've got
Yep.
App service for field service, app service for finance, app service for supply chain, app service for project ops now, talent, so on and so forth. And really, the integration between them is lagging a little bit, but that's the focus of the common data service slash now Dataverse. Got to get that in my head, and the joining of those solutions, right? So we've actually gotten
Right.
into opportunities. I think Marcus, you were involved with one where we're recommending, for example, Business Central paired with supply chain management.
Correct.
Because they need very advanced warehouse, but they don't need super advanced finance capabilities, for example. So that is an interesting concept where if they're getting to a point where they need ECO capabilities, just putting it out there, it might be something that gains more steam over time where they can just buy supply chain management, for example, and longer term then hook those together with Business Central to use that advanced functionality.
Yep.
Or buy a
Yeah,
third-party ISV.
It was the advanced warehousing we were talking about. Yeah,
Wa-
just this last week.
The water boy has spoken. To
Yes.
increase.
That's right.
To increase. Thank you very much, Waterboy. Appreciate that.
All right, Ann, I didn't want to take your time on.
Yep.
Sorry, but
Go ahead, Dan. Show us what you got with the
Alrighty.
ECM.
Let's talk about engineering change management. So the why of this is the need within D365 F&O or supply chain management, where our product management, our methods of releasing product have been okay, but not particularly robust or interesting. Not a lot of discipline that people could, security permitting, they could release items out into the ecosystem that didn't have a cost or didn't have a bill of material, and then bad things would happen and people would hate on each other. We didn't really have good end-to-end lifecycle management. That the lifecycle management we had was for the item, not for the life cycle itself, not for the process behind the item. We didn't have any good version control. And then there was no engineering change management from an ECO point of view. We had some workarounds and they were cool, and we had some integrations and they were cool, but it was spotty and kind of glued together. And it was one of the big points of weakness that us on the delivery side, customers would just stare at us and go, "You're kidding me? You don't have an item release workflow?" And you'd be like, "No."
Oh, we had case
Yeah.
management. Come on, man. We had
Yeah.
case management.
Right. They were
We
like,
could do.
What? And so the feedback that we're hearing from the customers is, I talked about this earlier, that how businesses are being pressured by other big businesses to start operating and thinking differently about how they distribute their product, how they release their product, how they manage their product. So our customers have been dealing with shrinking product life cycles that need to churn and burn, get through products. Sales guy comes in, says, "We need to put a copper top on top of it, not a silver top. How do we quickly do that? How do you estimate the impact? How much is that going to just freak the production people out? What impact is that going to do to quality? How do we have to change internal processes? What else could this possibly impact? Is it going to increase or decrease our reliability? Is this change a, oh my God, or a, oh yeah, sure, we can do that tomorrow? So we had none of those sort of estimating, feeling, measuring, sizing, tracking, releasing tools inside of D365 until Project Oak Tree came along, which is now engineering change management. So long-awaited functionality. The way I've been talking to people about it is, if you have items, this will affect you. That's the bottom line on this. If you have items in your D365 F&O, you should be starting to look, read, learn, and think about how you could be rolling this out and using it inside of your ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tentacles go far and wide, and they're good tentacles. They're not those cold, mushy, suck on your face and leave a mark tentacles. These are good, hug you, love you tentacles. Because it's functionality everybody's been wanting. We've been desperate for something that just looks like, how do I control the heart of my ERP system? And, you know, some people are going to beat me and say, well, that's the customers, and we got CE for that. And then they're going to say, well, you know, that's the GL, and I got financial planning for that. But really, it's the items. It's my bill of materials, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the question would be too, Anne, ECM, I mean, typically we look at a bill of material perspective of it as well, but I mean, you could theoretically use this beyond just bill of materials, right? I mean, you could use it just for item change documentation that you want to keep track of obsolescence, or if you want to keep track of, for example, what the impact is as well in terms of what do you need to do with that inventory? How much do you have on hand of that particular inventory, and what's the disposition going to be? Those are values I'm assuming you can kind of attach to this as well. Is that a correct assumption?
Right. And treat it as your communication system, right?
Yeah.
That these are things that are changing. It may not be updating the bill of material. It may not be as explicit as take off the silver one, put a gold one on. But it's a communication, it's a suggestion, it's a taking feedback from others that are not engineers with propellers on top of their heads, real life stuff, getting those change requests into the system. And then if you look at a company where most operations, if you're multi-site, you're going to have a centralized engineering office.
Yep.
So feedback could come from all those subsidiaries. So let them create engineering change requests that automatically flow up to the engineering desk. So you're not hamstrung by a central system that nobody can get into. So take those inputs, take those ideas, take those quality things, safety things, and make sure they're all going through some kind of a formal process, but that they're being recognized and tracked.
Yep, that makes sense. Cool.
So, I just say, if you have items, forget about bills of materials, that's a nice to have too. But if you have items, in engineering change management is something that you should start looking at it. How are you going to deploy this inside of your business? Because the functionality is wide and it's deep and it's awesome. The biggest thing straight out the box is version management. We have not had a good way of tracking, is this version A or version B, or, and Oaktree gives us those tools that I can automatically assign versions onto an item, or I can manually assign items onto a version, and I can connect those versions with engineering attributes. So what are the underlying reasons for this version change? And I can store those out there as engineering attributes that I can search on, that I can use as part of my order entry. So if we're looking for, I don't even know what an RMS means, a power RMS, 300 watt. I know 300 watt. So on an order entry screen, someone could say, I want the 300 watt version, and you could type in 300 watt, and now bring those products up and into your orders. So the version management allow us to see inventory at a version level or a consolidated level. We can track bills of materials to those, all the good stuff that you would think is in there is in there.
That's pretty cool. But so one thing, and RMS, root mean square, it's the constant power that a device can provide. So the only reason I know that, I used to do subwoofers back in the day when I was younger, and wattage and RMS was a big conversation topic that we always had. How much RMS can you provide? So pretty nerdy. Sorry, but one thing I wanted to do, just to bring it back though to that engineering change management versioning. Versions are a new product dimension now, aren't they?
They are.
Yes, and that I just wanted to highlight, because we'll probably take a little bit of a look at that, but that's a pretty big thing, because it used to be before that we may use like style, color, config, those different types of attributes, but really it's changed. We now have that, like you said, that version that we can attach to the product dimension to drive that. So it's a variant now, right?
It's now a variant. It acts like a variant to a large extent. It has a little bit of its own personality, because it's initiated slightly differently to our other variants.
Mm-hmm.
But really, really useful, instead of having to kludge existing fields for something that just is kind of endemic. tucked behind this version thing is Wave 2 actually gives us 2 new product dimensions that are user defined. Fun fact. So if you have some weird product dimension that's not version, style, color, size, config, you can now user create 2 of them. So one of them, could be something like your wattage thing that we're going to track all our items to. So just as a side note for Wave 2, they've expanded this whole notion of variant and variant management and really allowing the users to start driving those variants in ways that are a little less retail / clothing type oriented and a little more product generic.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. That's because it's a common request. I don't know. In demos, I commonly get a request for extending out, some type of variation within products that goes beyond, for example, size, color, and style, and even version. I mean, so maybe you have a size, color, and style, but then you have used or not. So computer parts systems, for example, usually go to about 5 levels because you need quality codes basically that are related to them as well if you're reselling them. So that's a great feature to hear in there.
Yep, some real nice stuff. ECM's expanded some of our workspaces, and we on the delivery side, we're still promoting workspaces hard, saying people get in there, use them, customize them, don't keep going up and down your menus. That's so 1986. So workspaces, we have a brand new one for engineering change management. And then they've expanded some of the existing workspaces around product readiness so that this is truly bolted into the system. The biggest fun thing, best thing, is going to be the juggling screens here.
Yep.
Is the workflow that I now have a product release management workflow that I can put my items through readiness checks, that they can be system checks. The system's going to go out and say, does this data exist? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. It could be a manual check. I need a person, a real live human being to go onto that item and go and validate that data's been entered or things are being attached or documents are being assigned or drawings are connected and stuff like that. That the flow of the data from engineering out to being fully released to a customer from the engineering company can now be fully validated. We get away from this. Well, where'd this item come from? It's not finished yet. Oh, Susie Joe was on vacation, so we just released it and she'll fix it when she gets back. Those processes we can now properly stopgap and plug the holes and make them real and robust and strong. The other thing that's interesting is product templates have been greatly expanded. So we have product templates now under product inventory management, and they capture some of the fields needed for a new item master, right? But not all of them, not the good stuff, not the hard to put in stuff, not the planning stuff, not the order config stuff. And through ECM, those templates are now far more expanded and much more robust and can be applied a little more surgically with all that supporting data. So just a huge win in terms of creating products that are more reliable, creating products that are more like something that it's similar to. We don't have to keep doing this. Well, what did we do last time? So really just beefing up everything to do with what goes onto an item master and then how does that item master go out into the world and live a full and productive life.
That's awesome.
Little graphics on our workspaces. Product lifecycle state. We have product lifecycles now, and they really aren't terribly wonderful because they're basically a label inside the system, and the only control with that is whether or not the item's under MRP control. And that's like, oh, cute, but not too terribly helpful. So what ECM is offering us is the ability by product lifecycle state to control what transactions are allowed for an item. So if I'm phasing out an item, here I have a thing called end of life. I'm phasing that puppy out. I want to keep taking sales orders until I run out of inventory, but I want the salesperson to know that. So when they're taking a sales order, they're going to get a warning message that says, this is now an end of life item. And that gives them the opportunity to say to the customer, oh, by the way, we are phasing this item out. Do you want to order more? But we're not going to put it on a sales quote. We're not going to commit to have this for a customer down the line. And we're not going to have any purchase orders for this item, right?
Yep,
or
yep.
any production orders because it's end of life. So I can, at a fairly granular level, I can now shut down individual transactions, not just broad process streams. And I can either shut them down or give people warnings. And then on the item, I can go and overwrite the statuses per company. So if I have an item in multiple companies, which is happening more and more with our customers, by company, I can actually modify that product lifecycle state.
Interesting. Okay. That's a great idea. I mean, I saw the active in planning too. Like you can uncheck the active in planning. So even though you have demand for it, it won't actually generate then a signal to MRP to reorder or produce or any of those other actions. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Really cleans up that chasing behind items and really tidies up this whole communication system that I keep talking about as to what is really, really happening with that item and what do I want my users to be really, really able to do with it, that it's not just this big brush stroke. So I can get nice and granular with it now. We've always had attributes, and this is now being expanded that I can now create engineering attributes that are going to be specific to my engineering version. These are searchable throughout the system, so I can start looking for them on an order or a purchase order and pull up those items by that attribute, not just necessarily by the product name or the product item. So grossly expanded, really useful, a little more practical. And again, going back to this conversation thread I have around communication, really allowing me to explode out the whys around this item or the whys around the engineering request.
That's pretty cool. So attributes, I think are kind of used in some ways overused, right? Like saying we can do attributes, right? But really what we're saying here is that you can have engineering attributes that are related to a particular product that are independent of a batch attribute, for example. Because classically, a lot of people in manufacturing process, especially, they look at batch attributes, right? That they want to flow so they can do a search for the batch attributes. It looks like here you can set up engineering attributes that are separate, but you can also then link them, it looks like, as well with that batch attribute right there. So that way, when you do an update, for example, to an attribute, if you want that to then flow to your batch attributes because you want to do selection, maybe you change the manufacturer and you consider that a different version, but you have to, in your production lifecycle, use up the other manufacturer first for batch selection, right? You would be able to track that then here and have ECM basically update those batch attribute values. Is that a correct assumption?
That's a correct assumption, and it can flow up and it can flow down.
Okay,
so
very cool.
We're really sharing the attribute love inside of the system and making them part of the conversation around an item because they're now accessible not just as something cool that I can put on a list page or build into a BI report or something, but now they actually become functional pieces of data inside of the system that I can work off of and drive information from.
Very cool. Do you know, Anne? So I see the inheritance attribute. Do we know where those are from? Do those inherit from groups, product groups, and things of that nature, or do you know?
Yes.
It does. Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Real fun stuff. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's incredibly powerful, which gets us into engineering change requests, the long awaited, much desired first phase of an ECM lifecycle, right? So allowing users to suggest changes to a product. So an ECR is not a yes, we're going to do it. It's a could we possibly please, given business concerns, given customer requests, giving information from a vendor. Um, this change request link becomes available throughout the system, and they are workflow enabled so that I can be sure that the process is going to be properly followed for putting the ECR through the company. I can assign priorities to them. I can assign severities, and the system can do some metadata behind that in terms of, ooh, this is a big one. Forget about it. Put it on the back burner, kind of a thing. I can associate them with products. I can associate documents, images, videos, part of a conversation thread to substantiate or build out, why do I need this? Because sometimes an ECR is a nice to have. Sometimes it's the beginning discussion around a must have. Sometimes 3 or 4 ECRs could better inform what could then become an engineering change order where I commit to actually doing something on the product. So we can create them anywhere within the operational companies. And your typical PLM ERP system typically doesn't have this created in the subsidiary and let it go up into the engineering system. It's typically just a one-to-one or one-way only flow. So this communication and visibility of the ECRs amongst the different legal entities gives the D365 engineering people and the people who inform products some really nifty tools and methods of connecting and communicating.
That's interesting. I guess, Adam, can I put you on the spot here with this question? Maybe it's not relevant at all, right? It's like snap out of it. Um, do you get feedback when you're going through D365 sales, field service, projects, whatever it is, on more the Dataverse slash CE type environment? Have you had requests in the past for when customers report, for example, an issue with a particular product, that you need to track that particular issue and relay that information to engineering? Is that a common scenario that you've seen in the past by chance?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, as Anne was going through this idea of product lifecycle management and the new features and everything, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if Microsoft one day, I have to imagine one day, we're not there yet, but one day we will have a consolidated solution to, in my world, it's case management, and that can be engaging with your customer on break fix. It can be a request. It can be a number of different things. Usually people consider that to be an externally facing, a customer facing function. But largely we split it. We can have case management for external customer engagement, issues, ideas, whatever, have that funnel, and then next to that have an internal work stream for case management and properly segment those work streams. And absolutely we've done that where internal engineering teams, if an organization is living on a legacy ERP system, or maybe they don't really have anything super structured internally, we use cases and then build our own custom process flows, the visual process flows, and maybe some custom tables, maybe some some other automation that we configure ourselves to take that initial idea, that initial case, that flash in the pan, build it out, ideate, nurture that, and then push that along a process to actually jump then into products and getting other stakeholders and engineers and other people at the table. So the short answer here is yes, absolutely. The longer answer is, with Dataverse, everything is so malleable and customizable that it really comes down to what is the business's requirement living between those cones, instead of having the system inform how we, so it's a different look and feel. But absolutely, we've been around that block plenty of times.
Yeah, because I was thinking like ECR creation. To me, it like you said, it's a case. You start a case with it because that's the information that's coming from the customer, obviously, or that interaction from a sales perspective. But making it so that you have a flow then on the case that you could click on that would generate an ECR to
Hmm.
bring it over the fence instead of doing something really complex and making a very complex integration. I mean, we theoretically could do that even just right now.
How cool would that be to once you figure that out, once you vet that as a customer support agent, you go, oh, this is product development, this is
Engineering.
ideation, this is a change order, this is something that actually plays into PLM or the change process to properly and efficiently and either automatically or maybe a little bit of quality control from a human presence, the actual agent, kick that over so it goes end-to-end life cycle here. Customer has an idea or something that needs to change. We field that in a case in D365 customer service, and we then are able to automatically route that based on the subject or based on other data that lives on that case to then take that information and push that into this process here. I mean, we're
It's set
talking
up.
like
Yeah.
front end Power Apps portal,
Yeah.
D365 CD Dataverse, and then end to end here, going further downstream, actually jumping then into the ECR workflow.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. And that's why I want to make sure because to me, it just, this, like, I could actually, in a demonstration, set this up without any code. I think I actually could. I think you could actually just create a flow, set it up to say, when you have a case inside of customer service, you click on a button, it creates that inside of Dynamics, and in actually supply chain management, or supply chain is what we call it. But even in supply chain, we have events too. So that way, Anne, if you change a request, for example, and assign it to an ECO, it's set up that says when a record gets created in this table that may have been related to a case, send a signal back to the case inside of customer service, right? So, and it's not code that we're doing to be able to drive this. It's just events that are occurring between them, which I just think is pretty dang cool because it makes it so much easier to take that feedback and incorporate it then into the ECR ECO process. So,
What, takes me back to my opening statement about this is part of that communication system that we've been missing in the F&O world or the SCM world. And with its tentacles, the loving tentacles, this really gives us tools, and it gives the customer, empowers the customer to actually take a whole lot of data points that have been hard to mine and correlate and start putting them together in a meaningful glump, and then start actioning them, and then action them through a workflow. So we know that, the things are progressing in the way that stuff needs to happen to optimize this communication chain. We can assign different people to different parts of the workflow, different roles inside the workflow. And once that ECR is properly processed, at some point in time, we can then convert it into an engineering change order. And the change order is the Bob the Builder part, right? We are going to build it. We are going to change it. And so an ECR can get copied into an ECO, or it can be fed in manually. And I can use an engineering change order for a number of things: creating a new version, updating an existing version, modifying a bill of material, a route, attributes, playing with the life cycle, taking it through some kind of process change in terms of sales. Say we're now going to phase that out. All right, what does that look like on the business side? Sales come up with all sorts of great ideas, but how is that going to actually impact the real world people? A vendor comes in and says, you know what, that item that you buy from us, we can no longer get it, or it's no longer going to be manufactured. So these are the new specs of the new replacement part. Now we got to go and noodle on that because things are changing. Mm-hmm. So an engineering change order can go against multiple items. I can group them together. I can just do it for one item, have a family of items. And again, it's workflow enabled. So I can have my checks and balances, put my engineering change order through a formal process that I know the people who need to be touched are going to be touched. The inputs I need, I'm going to get. and stuff isn't going to get lost between the cracks or die out in the weeds, right? And then we get to the everybody's engineering change order is always the building is burning, right? Everybody feels that their needs are the most important way. And so I can actually design some engineering change severity rule sets that I can say, all right, people, if it's just a bill of material change, it's a bill of material change, people, settle down. But if I've got to change my bill and my route and a life cycle and set somebody's hair on fire, well, that's going to be a whole different level of severity. So I can take these rules and create like multiplier effects that I can more democratically and a little less sales guy standing there going, you have to do this now. I can actually try and get some assessment on what is the true severity of an engineering change order and where does it fit in my hierarchy of things you've got to get done now. So the system's really allowing us to measure that severity in a more mathematical way to try and build out what is the profile of this engineering change order.
And it looks like it comes with a bunch out of the box, right? So it's got like an attribute, a route, a document, a rule, another rule impact. It looks like, I'm just looking on my screen real quick here, and then a BOM change. But these are, here's the thing, you can always tell when there's code involved with this, right? These are classes, it looks like, that you
Camel
code.
case.
Exactly. It's like, you look at it and you're like, as an end user, it's like, Yeah. But you've got some that are out of the box. The point is that you can then create new classes to do more complex rule evaluation, which is nice because you've got a framework basically to be able to go through and do it. So that's pretty cool.
That was going to be my question. Is in the CRM world, we've got the D365 sales, customer service, all the customer engagement stuff. We've got this concept of business rules. We've got this concept of basically, and this is for like form level, hide, show fields, require fields, don't require fields. There are a number of different controls that are sort of pre-baked. You don't have to be a coder to go and just like visually construct these rules. And it feels like it's a pretty similar concept where it's maybe the ease of entry is a little better versus just actually scripting something, source control, whatever language you're going to use for it. So this is cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Really helps to measure or weigh the true importance of that engineering change order instead of someone there with their hair on fire, right? And then the other part of weighing the value to the business of an engineering change order is a business impact assessment, because the question always is, what is this going to screw up? What is this going to impact? What's this going to mess up? Or what are my opportunities with this engineering change order? And they've done a real nice job behind this, where I have an engineering change order and I know it's going to impact one sales order, two production orders, and then the different products. And I can keep drilling down and getting to actual intercompany inventory, production orders, and go all the way down to a transaction level of if I were to use this engineering change order right now, what do I have to go and do and tell people and pull paperwork off the shop floor and go and tell people to go disassemble number 5 because now we've changed the bill of material around this item, or I need to go tell a customer, hey, we no longer have the red one because we've just ECO'd that sucker out the door, but I do have blue ones that are really cute. Would that suffice? So this business impact assessment is a super, super tool that answers the long question of how much work have we just made for everybody else in the company by implementing this engineering change order, or how many customers am I going to make happy or sad, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the quite honest thing with this is that, understanding that impact is critical for the disposition of the product, right? So, in some systems you've got automated disposition. It doesn't sound like we're at that point yet here, but I mean, one of my favorite customers. I'm not going to say the name on stream, man, but they're an IoT customer as well. Of course, that's why I love them. So, and more than that. But the point is that they were talking about during their manufacturing process, they screwed up where the holes go, for example, on one of the parts, and they have to basically take all those parts and redo them. And they can actually correct them. They're not so wrong. They're basically missing, I think, holes is what it came down to. But that was because their engineering version didn't have the right specs for where they needed to drill those holes. So they've got to create a rework order now to go take that and rework it. This at least shows you then, you did the initial version. Here's everything that's in inventory now that you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with it. Are you going to scrap it? Are you going to sell it as is? Or are you going to rework it to bring it up to that new version as part of your business process? So it's very cool to see that they have a business impact assessment, because that's that's table stakes to me when it comes to the engineering change capabilities, which is cool to see.
Yeah, and with so many of our customers now being in a distributed business model, that if we do this engineering change in France, what is the impact if we also rolled it out to the USA? Or what if we did this in the USA? Should we do it in Germany as well? Or, my business in Iowa versus my business in California. Maybe I'm going to be able to phase in this ECO to minimize some of that business impact. But at least I have the tools and the data to go and make those assessments. And the last piece of being able to make the assessment around the impact of an ECO is what all other items could possibly be impacted by this change. Maybe I'm focused in on the red one, and but there are other products that use this same component. So if I change this component, I'm looking at a specific parent where maybe I have a safety issue, and I know I need to fix it for that parent. But what other parents are there in my system, and what other ultimate parents are there in the system that possibly I have to roll this ECO out to as well? So it gives me a very nice view of not just the immediate parent, but what I call the ultimate parent. So, what's the thing that's going to be on a sales order that could be impacted, that I need to be communicating to my customer because something 4 levels down in the bill of materials has changed. Mm-hmm. That may affect their form, fit, or function, or something in the way we make our product that they're dependent on. So a lot of just, hey, these are the things that are going to be, these are the things that are going to happen, not just because an engineer sat down and said, we're going to change something, but the total impact across the business in terms of our buying strategies, our quoting strategies, our sales strategies, and production strategies. And not just in my little mud puddle, but all the mud puddles out, around inside of my supply chain ecosystem. Because again, we're trying to do the best possible thing for everybody, and we need to measure the impact and know where the impact is going to be. Mm-hmm. So some very, very powerful tools inside of the ECO, ECR part of the system. Some great tracking tools, note-taking tools. The workflow is powerful. So ECM as a module is just this little gift that came just before Christmas. It truly has made 2020 just like, yay! Something to go and play with, something to noodle on, something that is going to be very impactful for a lot of our customers.
That's awesome. Then there's the roadmap, right? So it's 10, I was going to say, I have a 10.014 and I don't see this. It looks like 10.015 is where we're going to start seeing this feature where you can enable it.
Correct. So 10.15 is out on public preview. And when you install that, you can go and turn on the feature, and it'll come up in your menu system as engineering change management, and you'll see all that functionality that I had on one of my early slides in terms of the menu build out. The go live code date is going to be February 2021. So if you want to put it up in your sandbox, start playing with it, you've got a couple of months before it becomes standard code. There is no upcharge for this module. There's no increased licensing fees or anything like that. Currently, there is no support for process manufacturing. That's coming in April. But discrete manufacturing is fully supported right now. So we're certainly very excited about it. The customers that I've spoken with are seeing just that they're not going to be purchasing really expensive PDM systems, because we now have an offering inside of D365 that is robust. It has good functionality, and it really expands the notion of why do you put in an MRP system in the first place, and that's communication and access to data and reliable work streams.
Awesome. A lot of good content here, Anne. I mean, this is, it's great to have. I mean, like I said, we've got demo environments with this too, right? That we can actually, if people are curious on more details with it, I think we were playing around with one, spinning it up in the background, right? And it works fairly well then, I'm assuming, for going through the functionality, because we have it all set up already, right?
Yeah, we started playing with this probably 6 weeks ago. We're really, really lucky that we have an employee here at Stone Ridge who had worked with the original product. And I first caught wind of it and sent out an email saying, has anybody ever seen this before? And he raised his hand and went, I used to work with this. So that put us in a unique position that we had expertise on the core product right out the chute. So it has been an amazing trip for us to be able to ramp up on this code, because the product is far and wide. It's a lot of new functionality. And we've done internal training for our people. We've done a couple of customer-facing webinars. One of our guys is busy running a one-day training class on it today for a different customer. So the customers that we've been working with are very, very excited about this.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I will say from the slightly, we're all coming together in time, but from the outsider's perspective a little bit, I really, really liked that business impact report. Like understanding how all configurations are set up, what these items are, on-hand inventories, breaking things down to very, very detailed levels, and then projecting, hey, if you make these changes, this is what you're going to realize across your enterprise. That, like, I'm very used to building from scratch and designing from requirement, like having that ready to go, obviously understanding there will probably be a few asterisks and things to consider along the way, but just having that baked in, ready to go, that full up business impact on those change orders and those updates, that's chef's kiss. That's awesome.
I agree entirely. I mean, it'll be interesting too, Marcus, kind of going to Business Central with this, right? I mean, Business Central usually doesn't get the feature right away, but they eventually get the feature because there's a lot, just like on super high-end capabilities, they usually come down to SMB almost always, at least at some base level. But just to make sure people understand this concept, if you're looking at it from a Business Central or SMB perspective, I mean, we have code, Marcus, that we can actually implement for engineering change management that does a pretty good job. It's at an early base level, right, of notices and then requests. I think we call it requests and notice that we did with it. But it allows you to list kind of the versions, some of the changes that you can do for the bill of materials, do a where used, does some of the basics with it. So, you're not being forgotten, I guess, is what I'm saying here too, right?
Yeah, there's some base functionality there. That's fine. And I know we have some clients that have actually implemented the CE option that Adam had talked about earlier, where they leverage a change management process in that application too.
Yep. Awesome. Well, we are at time for today, and it was an absolute pleasure to go through this. I think you did a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Yeah, and you have fans.
Thank you, Ann.
I had fun.
Come on, chat, go crazy. Give her
and fan.
Give her thumbs up and happy thoughts in chat here. Kind of summarizing at the end here too what we're going to be covering next week. We have on, not next week, 2 weeks from now, sorry, December 3rd at 11, we have our live agents, Power Virtual Agents, and Omnichannel Oh My. Adam, do you want to give us a sneak peek on what you're going to be covering?
Yeah, it's awesome. You should join.
Okay.
It's going to be that's it. Yeah, we're going to be looking at, and I've done it. We've looked at Power Virtual Agents a couple of times to this point on Confab, but this is actually looking at the native ways we can use PVA and Omnichannel for customer service to monitor ongoing chats, to actually dip into those chats, transfer to agents, collaborate on these chats, help customers, seamless handoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you should tune in. We're going to look at not just the high level stuff, but we'll actually get a little bit more hands on with how this all kind of comes together, and some gotchas and licensing and a number of things. So it'll be a really good time.
Awesome.
And today, I will say, today's geeky deliciousness. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but this is an all print, like a denim jacket that my awesome wife got me, and it's got TIE fighters, it's got everything all over, like, and I'm breaking out from the image here, but yeah, that's the geeky deliciousness this week.
Yeah, you need to get the new, what's the new Star Wars game that came out that everyone's
Squadron.
talking about? Squadrons, with an Oculus too. I'm going to see one of the streams. You're going to be on it, just looking around. Maybe we'll stream that in the background.
Just join
People can watch a
Confab
video
one day
game.
with the whole
Yeah.
apparatus on, just doing this the entire time and
Yeah.
fielding questions.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun. And then just so everyone knows too, for kind of after that, which is going to be a lot of fun, Adam, I've got to talk to you a little bit. I got a PVA opportunity that I'm going to be doing in finance. So having a virtual agent actually look up credit and collection information. So this is going to be kind of cool. Other fun topic, right? Other topics that we're going to cover too, just so everyone's up to speed for the future here. December 17th, we have technology in 2020. We really want to take a review of what we've broadcasted, obviously, during Confab, because part of what we're trying to set for direction here is helping you align your business really to that future. And if we're telling you the wrong things, we really want to review that and understand what changed. And if we were right, we want to talk about what we're right. Because the following session, after December 17th, after the year, on January 14th, we're going to start making some more predictions for 2021. Because there's going to be, obviously, investments that businesses are doing. Well, what are those investments that you should be privy to, and what are the technologies that support that? And really, we're trying to approach it, obviously, from a business process perspective and using the technology to support it. So that's really the plan then for our next 3 weeks of schedule here. I know it's been
It's January. Holy cow.
Exactly. We're already there. It's been a year that we've been doing this, guys. It's been pretty awesome. So everyone in chat, thank you again for joining. We always love having you here and going through this content. And thank you again. We think you did a great job. Chat's very happy. You are a star. And we will see you 2 weeks from now for some more Confab fun. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.